The topic here is it's related. Yeah, no worries. Is how so the topic is how conversations have changed across generations. So the opening question is, do you think it's harder or easier to have honest conversations today? Sorry, that's for the culture connection. So the question is, what did failure mean in your generation? So I'll repeat the topic again. So the topic is failure and learning the hard way. But what did failure mean in your generation? And so let me just think. I'll just tell you what I think that means for older generations or elder generations. I think a lot of elder generations put a lot of stock in their kids, as they should. My generation, I think you start to see a bit of a shift. We're not having as many kids and a whole bunch of other stuff, but your kids going to university, your kids graduating, I think so much of how a parent or how a person that has children, especially around my age, mid 20s, 30s, if their kids don't graduate, a lot of them actually look at it, and I don't think they should, that they failed in some way if their kids don't graduate, right? I think that's one of the ways that I think your generation might look at who's successful, who's not compared to their peers. So I'm interested to know what you think as far as your generation thinks of failure in general, but how do they define failure? How do they look at failure?
I, I can't speak for my generation because I'll give you a guess. Or I think that
Mm-hmm.
remember, but I'm not pretending to speak for the entire Gen Xers, right? But I think a lot of them think in terms of whatever they were taught is, and it's coming from a good place. So they're saying, okay, look, you need to get a good education so you can get a good job, so you can eventually have a wife and settle down, and there's some selfish thing there. It's like this idea of a selfish gene. Most people wants to continue to live through their offspring and their offspring's offsprings, right? So I think that is the motivation. So anything that they think will help that to extend themselves in the future, that's what they're going to decide
Mm-hmm.
success and failure means. I think that's I'm not a philosopher, but I think that has something to do with it, or evolutionary biologist. But I think that has a very I think that has a big part of it. So if the society tells them that one way to do that, to succeed, um, for your offspring to move on to the next generation, and so on and so on, they need to have a good education and get a good job and all that, because that's one of the way to escape poverty, right? The, so that's why they're, in my opinion, they put such a strong emphasis on, if you do not finish university or at least finish college or high school or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you're a failure no matter what, unless you're Zuckerberg or
Right.
the Zuckerberg of the world, or those people who dropped out of
Ivy League
college or university
dropout
or high
types.
school.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and then go on to build $1 billion company. Well, $1 billion company proves that they were right, but that's an isolated case, and they're outliers, and you can't use outliers as if they're the mean. Like, you can't expect
Mm-hmm.
outliers, right? So I think that's so I think that's the motivation. The problem with that is things have been changed, Jin, for some time now, where I remember long time ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago, I was saying education is going to change, and you're going to get the same type of education online, and people saying that doesn't make any sense. And then MIT, MIT, in my opinion, the top technical university on the planet, decided that they're going to open up their courses. I remember it's called MIT Open Courseware. So at that time, I set up I'll get back the relevance of this in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But I set up a Google alert back when I don't know if anybody use Google Alert these days, but I would set up a Google Alert, and Google Alert is if something happened, it will alert me, something change in the future or something like that. So I would set up a Google Alert when I heard them talking about MIT is going to open up their entire universe, most of their courses with the notes, the videos, the audio, and all that. And I remember people were saying, no, because it's not going to mean anything because you need to have the paper and all that kind of stuff. And for a
Mm-hmm.
doctor or a pilot, I want them to have that. No
Right.
pilot is going to say, I slept at the Holiday Inn last night. Right? I'm not taking that plane. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
you still need that type of
Certification,
um,
qualification.
certificate qualification. Say you have done this before. You can't go take out somebody's heart if it's your first time. I understand the importance of it, but most things don't require all that stuff now, especially with AI and how education has significantly changed. Where most of those knowledge that was hidden in Harvard and MIT and all that stuff is now online, and you can read those books and you can do the same type of stuff even better. So I think those failure mode has to change.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I clearly see it start changing. Even some government jobs nowadays said, okay, um, the degree or necessary experience. You
Right.
understand?
I
Like,
remember that
yeah,
shift. Yeah, when it
see,
was just
yeah,
4 year degree, masters, and then it's this or
yeah,
relevant experience. Right?
right, or relevant experience.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right, right. Yeah. So it's been a shift. So I think that shift is going to come with your generation and the Gen Zs. They're going to have to shift it because in a couple of years, if you want to learn, you're going to go into some kind of AI simulation, and you can walk around the body, and you can maybe in an immersive experience learn science, art, technology, and all that stuff by just putting on a game like thing, and you're
Mm-hmm.
now inside a cell.
Right.
Um, you're not, you know, what I mean, the university is not going to have a monopoly on these things, right? The AI models, the big ones that cost trillions of dollars, they're just the big ones. Very soon, we're not going to need them anymore because those ones we use them. It's called distill, like a distill model. We use them to train smaller models that's really good at things that we're interested in. You're going to have a lot of vertical, and they no way they can just reverse it and say, okay, we're not going to get. Doesn't work like that, right? So
Right.
you're going to find out that you guys are going to force to say, um, kind of like a coders. Like I used to do. I'm a computer. I'm a computer person. You know, like I usually say, like computer science, but I do all things computers, hardware, whatever. So, um, we have been doing this for the longest time, right? So that's why you can see a young person, like a teenager, working at Google. If he can code and show that he
Right.
can code, he's getting hired. So in the tech world, that's already been happening for
Right.
years and years and years.
100%. High school,
Yeah,
right? They code at 16,
yeah,
17.
yeah. You're
By
working
the,
at Google.
you're working at Google. There's no,
Yeah,
I need you to go
yeah,
to get a 4 year degree. No,
yeah.
they put
And
them in the
design
city.
does the same.
Right.
Design does the
Exactly.
same thing.
Right.
They say, show me your portfolio.
That's truly the
Right? It goes
merit
from a
based.
portfolio.
If you think about it,
That is a
which
meritocracy.
right,
That is the ultimate
which is what
meritocracy.
we're saying in the the education is supposed to serve. But
Yes. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'll ask you one last question as it relates to this, right? So the topic being failure and learning the hard way. Is there a mistake or quote failure in quotations there uh, that you hoped that I wouldn't have to learn the hard way? In other words, that you didn't want me to experience that same failure, but perhaps navigate around it. Because some failures people say that failing builds character, right? Is there
Okay.
one in particular, one thing that you can think of that you felt like, okay, that'd be great to learn, but you'd rather me not have gone through if I could help
Like,
it, if you can help it.
like you should stand up for yourself, and then you beat up some dude and then learn the hard way in
Mm,
jail.
right.
And a criminal, like, right? Like, yeah, yeah, simple things like that. But outside going to jail or get sick, injured, and all that kind of stuff, I think it's sometimes I believe that is you shouldn't be learning the mistake that I could prevent you from making. Because that's not how the world works. The world works based on we evolve because of we pass knowledge down, right? Like if you notice, a bird learn how to fly, it will teach, right? The baby comes with flying in his DNA memory type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff fly, right? So my thing was always look like if, if I already know all this, go out through this mistake, you shouldn't be going through the same set of mistakes. There's going to be enough new mistake that you need to go through that not having gone through the mistake that I've gone through, it's not going to hinder you in any way. In
Mm.
fact, it's going to give you an unfair advantage, right? Because um that's how the old money and all those people do. What they do. Most of the business that they're learning, the kids are learning around that dinner table, right? All the different life lessons, and they're not letting those young people, their sons and daughters, go through all the stuff that they have learned and corrected those mistakes. You're teaching them through osmosis and through experience, and sometimes outright at the dinner table that this is what we're doing and all that stuff. And that's why I said same education, not equal education. So when you end up in the same room with those same people, you think you and them are at the same level. But the thing is, their parents and uncle already make sure that those mistakes that we have learned, we've gone through and solved them and figure it out. We're going to show you that you now
Mm-hmm.
go make some new mistake. So the question, the type of mistake that I want you to learn, there's no way I could prevent you from making them because I don't even know them myself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the best way I can answer that question is I don't want you to make any of the mistake that I already made, because I'm going to show you like don't do this. Like I'm lucky to be alive, if because I did that, right? Because you're going to have your own set of mistakes, but now you're over here you're on this level now making your own mistake. If I allow you to make the same mistake, then we're not growing as a somebody in the family has to take some kind of
Somebody got to
sacrifice.
do, right.
Now somebody has to take like if every generation is repeating the
Plateaued.
same mistake, they're going to be on the same level. Somebody has to and then say, yo, don't do none of this nonsense or do this, and this. So you can know on this level with your people who on that level making those mistakes. I can't help. There's no way. I don't even know what those mistakes are.
Mm-hmm.
I can only know the mistake that I know. Right. So the answer is I wouldn't want you to make any mistake that I already know. So I'll show you that this is it. This is what it's gonna do. Because there's going to be enough new mistake for you to make by yourself.
Perfect.
That is the answer. Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that. Okay. So last segment here, Dad, which I think relates well to that, and I do hear that 100%. And I wasn't thinking about it like that in the different levels and really looking at it on a generational standpoint, which is interesting enough because this is the Generation Gap podcast. But
Yeah.
you're looking at it from the standpoint of the longer now, right? And from that perspective, it's not necessarily me and you, but looking at the trajectory of our lineage, of the family tree, family line. And we should really
Exactly.
be making new mistakes within a different context. And hopefully in a more
Exactly.
advanced context, bringing us forward.